Welcome to Expert Profiles Atlanta, where Atlanta's influencers and innovators share strategies for overcoming obstacles and achieving success in business and life. Here's your host, best-selling author and Atlanta influencer, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my special guest is Dr. Matt Smith. He is a licensed psychologist. He is the owner of Atlanta Consulting and Psychological Services, and we're here today to talk about marriage counseling, couples counseling. So welcome to the show, Dr. Smith.
Hey, hello. How you doing? Thank you for the invite.
Yes, no problem. I'm doing great. Looking forward to hearing everything that you have to say here about marriage counseling. But give us a brief background into you and your business and tell us how you got started in this.
Okay, great. Well, originally I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and I went to Jackson State University, received a bachelor's degree in liberal arts, and I got my master's degree in counseling. And I worked at a small college called Tougaloo College as a counselor for TRIO programs, which is a federal funded program, and that worked with high school students to help them matriculate into college. And then after that, I went to my doctoral program in Springfield, Missouri at Forest Institute of Professional Psychology. And I got my doctorate degree in clinical psychology. Did my internship at Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee, and did my postdoc at Georgia State University in Atlanta, Georgia. And I opened up my own private practice in 2008 here called Atlanta Consulting and Psychological Services. And we have been in business for 10 years this year. So I'm getting kind of old.
Excellent. Well, congratulations for that. You've got a long history in helping people out, but talk to me about some of the people that you help. Is it mainly couples that you do counseling with? Well,
we do help a variety of people. I do individuals, I do families, and I love to work with couples. That's my passion. I myself have been married for 5 years. My wife is from Atlanta, Georgia. And also do workshops for the Heart of Marriage retreat, and will be held September the 14th through the 16th at Stone Mountain this year. So we're all invested in trying to help people work through their relationships, cope through their issues, and deal with problems that we have in everyday life.
Excellent. So let's talk about some of those problems, because marriage counseling seems like it's a big business. The divorce rate is sky high.
Yes.
Talk to me about the divorce rate first, and then what kind of problems people are having that lead to the divorce.
Okay. Well, here's some stats about divorce in the United States. Every 13 seconds, someone somewhere files for divorce. 66% of divorces are filed by women. 50% of children in the United States will see their parents divorce in their lifetime. 41% of first marriages end in divorce. 60% of second marriages end in divorce. 73% of third marriages end in divorce. So the average first marriage basically lasts 8 years. So these are some quite daunting statistics, and it just lets you know why it's so important to seek counseling to help to kind of mold and scope the foundation of your relationship, so we can make sure that we have tools to work through our issues.
Well, those are some quite ghastly numbers that don't bode well for young married couples looking to start that relationship, which is an awful shame. So what's the underlying problems?
Well, I think the underlying problems is 3 issues. The 3 reasons why people get divorced is, number 1, communication. Number 2, finances. And number 3, intimacy. And intimacy does not mean sex. Intimacy is the bigger umbrella, and sex comes under it. And so we first have to learn how to talk to each other. And oftentimes we have to know exactly how to get your point across to that person. So you have to learn that person to understand how to make a point and how to work things out, because it's not all about you. Now you're in a relationship and this is a team concept. So you have to work well together. And that starts with communication. First thing is finances. If you can't communicate, you definitely can't talk about finances. And that's how a lot of relationships go under. And the third is, once those two things happen, then you don't want to be around each other. You don't want to touch each other. And usually those are the issues. So what we try to do is we try to work on the number one thing, and that's communication. When you come into Atlanta Consulting Psychological Services, you come into our office, that's the first thing we work on. We also do assessment so we can find out, what is your love language? How do you convey your feelings, or how do you like to be talked to or connected with? And so we try to formulate a plan to help to rework the chemistry. And that's very important. And once we get the chemistry together and find out exactly, okay, what two elements work well for you guys, or what 3 or 4 elements work good within the relationship, then we can put them together and help you guys to formulate this system, this dynamic that works well within your relationship. So relationships are like fingerprints. They are all different. And we have to find out, when two different people come together, how can we help them to work together hand in hand?
Right. Now, I've often heard that finances are the leading cause of divorce, but I guess the whole communication issue is above the finances. That finances might be the thing, but communication is, what they're not doing. Exactly. So talk to me a little bit more in depth about each one of these. What can people do to enhance communication?
Well, communication is very key. Oftentimes we give assessments to find out what is your love language. And so we're pulling information from the stats that actually work. Once we get into what is the person's love language, how does a person take information in, how does the person process information, then we give this information to your partner. And if you're really trying to make the relationship work, then you will use these tools that we give you to be able to convey information to your partner, be able to take information in and understand your partner, because maybe the way that you like to be taught to is not the way that your partner likes to be taught to, and that's not the way that your partner conveys information or takes information in. So first we have to find out exactly the individual side of each other. How do we take in information? How do we process things? What hurts our feelings? What makes us motivated? What inspires us? And then we go from there. Once we get to that point of communication, then we can go to the finances. How do you talk about your finances? How do you come together? How do you build a bond? Do you use a financial advisor? Do you need to? If you do, then we have resources that we will let you know about, particular financial advisors within the Atlanta community, and hopefully put you in place with someone who is really, really good. The third thing is the intimacy. Now, intimacy is all about talking about your likes, your desires, holding hands, maybe on a couch, putting your arm around your mate, being able to console your mate with a hug, being able to talk about things that you enjoy doing, making date night. So it's not all about sex. It's really about the intimacy, the aspects of the relationship that exudes the romance, that exudes the love, that gives the person the attention. Sometimes you have to understand that your partner might not be very touchy-feely. That's fine. That's fine. When you know that, but you tell your partner who is not touchy-feely that I am touchy-feely and I do want that, then you guys can be able to have some middle ground and break ground on building this new foundation of intimacy.
Right. And the love languages that you talk about are based on the very popular book by Gary Chapman. What are these love languages, just so you can call them out so people can maybe understand them a little bit better?
Okay, well, I'll give you a few of them. One is physical touch. The
So
other is
acts of service,
acts of
which
service.
is probably mine.
Right, exactly. And you have a few more.
Right.
Receiving gifts is another one.
Hmm.
Quality time, words of affirmation.
Right.
So we want to make sure that you know exactly what your particular love language is. And I'm not trying to take over what Gary Chapman is doing, but it's an assessment that actually works, and along with other assessments. So we look at the research and find out what works. So oftentimes we will use different people's information that's in the community, whether it be books, whether it be workshops like the Heart of Marriage Retreat workshop that we're going to. Then I will be doing a workshop at is September the 14th to the 16th. So we try to use different tools to be able to connect to our clients and to people in the community and things of that nature, so we can kind of illustrate or facilitate something that will grow within, not within the couple, but within their children. And so that then the children will have the tools to make successful relationship work, and then they pass it down to their kids. And so this is what we kind of use. Like, what is your legacy? What do you want to leave? And the most important thing for us to leave is leave something to our children. Sometimes everything that you leave to your children is not going to be financial, but it's going to be the tools that you help them to be able to deal with things, be able to make their marriages and their relationships work. Those things are golden.
Right. And I think, it's been proven now time and again that kids, they don't want your money. They don't want things. They want your time. They want that quality time. That's what they need in order to be, healthy and happy. And it's the same with couples. But what do you find works best for couples? Is it finding somebody who's the same as you, or is it more the opposites attract and you balance each other out?
Well, it's really funny that oftentimes people think the opposites attract. But what I find is that people like others who like to do similar things, or who have similar interests, because these are people that you can talk to about things that that inspire you, or things that you enjoy doing. I find out a lot of couples, if a person likes to run, oftentimes they will find somebody else who likes to run, or somebody who likes to who likes to travel, and they want a travel partner. So oftentimes it's people who have similar interests. I find those are the relationships that work, because now we have some intangibles that we can, connect and cross connects. And then sometimes, not oftentimes, but sometimes, opposites do attract. And the case in point, the bad guy might want the good girl, or things of that nature. But as you get older, a lot of these things kind of evaporate, and you really want someone to treat you well, someone that you can get along with. And at the end of the day, you want a friend. You want someone that you can rely on, someone who's going to be there for you, somebody that you can have fun with and have a great communicative type of relationship.
Right. Having a friend and being able to enjoy each other and spend time together, extremely important. Now, I don't know if you know the statistics on this question, but are people more likely to get along and stay together if they get married later in life or earlier in life?
I find that couples who wait at least until they're almost 30, I'm not going to say 30, but almost 30, it helps a great deal of relationships. It's almost like if you're on a job and you have not a whole lot of experience, then you're prone to making mistakes. But the person who's had experience at that job knows how to deal with things before they even come, knows how to be proactive, understands that they have to have some maintenance when it comes to doing things on their job. So it's, the young person who has less experience in life is prone to make mistakes, are a little bit more impulsive. Sometimes they get in relationships and they work. So don't get me wrong. I've known couples that have been together for 20, 30 years. They met in high school and they get married, and but those stories are anomalies at times. You don't often find that. That's why people applaud people who have been married 50 years, and people stand up and clap. There's a reason. There is a reason for that, because it's an oddity. But people who have been married, and I find that people who get married closer to their 30s or in their 30s tend to stay married longer because they have faced experiences. Some of the aspects of the test of time has kind of hardened them, or given them some wisdom, and they're not prone to make the same mistakes they made in their youth.
Right. Yeah. You learn from your mistakes, and hopefully it's not mistakes that you made from a previous marriage, but you learn from those mistakes, and hopefully you've learned enough to bring it together with somebody else and have a marriage that lasts.
Exactly.
What do you see as far as some of the misconceptions out there about marriage counseling?
Well, some of the misconceptions out there about marriage counseling is that your relationship has to be almost on the rocks or on the rocks before you come. A lot of times you go to your doctor once a year, even if you're feeling healthy, just to make sure that everything is all right with you. So why not go see a counselor just maybe once or twice a year, just to kind of find out how you're doing, maybe give you some more interventions to keep things going, to be proactive rather than reactive. So your relationship does not have to be on the rocks for you have to go to counseling. Sometimes you just want to do things to spruce it up and improve it. Also, another misconception is that you have to go to marriage counseling, that you have to be working on your relationship or on your marriage. Sometimes people come to marriage counseling to understand how to, end their marriage in a way where it doesn't affect their children as much, so they can work together. I wish more people who are getting divorces and know that this person is not for me would come to counseling so they can learn how to work together, so their kids are not traumatized by their ineptitude to get along.
That's a great point there, because oftentimes in divorce there's a lot of animosity and hard feelings towards the other person, and the kids are affected badly. To be able to talk that out and come to some kind of resolution seems like it should be done a lot more often, even if that decision has been made.
Exactly.
So what are some of the myths about seeing a marriage counselor?
Well, some of the myths, especially in impoverished communities, is that you are crazy, that something that's wrong with you, that you're on medication, that this is going to be reported to your job, and it's going to be reported to the government, and the diagnosis will follow you forever. Well, we have to understand that counseling is just like anything else, any other, doctor that you go to, basically, is just to make sure that we're providing help if you have any issue. You might go to the doctor for a common cold, or you might go to the doctor, if you have some type of lung disease. Doesn't mean that every time you go to the doctor, it's going to be something huge. It could be something very small. So we want to make sure that we put counseling out there in a positive light, that is here to assist, that you're not crazy, that we all have features of mental illness. Sometimes things happen in life that might pull features out of you and make them bigger. Then that's when they become a diagnosis. So features and diagnoses are not the same. Sometimes you have a few features of depression. Maybe one day you wake up, you don't feel well. Well, you have to go through this about 14 days, 7 to 14 days before you are diagnosed with depression. So we have to understand that just because you're having a bad day doesn't mean that you're going to get a diagnosis, but it does mean that, okay, there is an agency out here for you, like my company or any other company. It's a few great companies here in Atlanta. A Healing Paradigm is a great private practice. Dr. Eda Fresh, she has a great private practice. myself, Atlanta Consulting Psychological Services. We've been in business for 10 years. So we have some great counseling services out here for you. Greenleaf Behavioral is a great option. And Georgia Health Partners, they're a great option as well. So we have plenty of counseling agencies for people to contact and try to connect with. And we just want to make sure that we evaporate any of the myths, the negative stereotypes that people are crazy or there's an issue, or we're going to put you on medication and things of that nature. So those are things that we want to kind of, throw away.
Right. And you kind of touched on the next question as well, which is, what are the fears? What are the fears that hold people back from getting the help that they need when they need?
Oh, well, one of the biggest fears is being labeled. People hate to be labeled and think that it's negative to say, oh, I went to my counselor today. I went to my psychologist today, and we just processed some things. Well, I have found when you process things with someone who is an expert, then usually you get great results. And so it will behoove everyone to find someone that they can process their issues with, that they can talk about things with, get interventions, get tools to become a better person. This is just like going to the gym. A lot of times you can work out on your own, but you get better results when you work out with a personal trainer or you work out with a group. So we have to make sure that we're doing things to extinguish any of these fears or these myths, so we can put ourselves in place to have more of an enriching life, to be able to pass these tools down to our kids so they can have a better lifestyle as well.
And I want to reiterate the point that you just made there, that, talking to your friends, whether it's a best friend or just, any friend, is not the same as talking to a qualified counselor. The friend's going to know you intimately, and they might be swayed one way or another with the advice that they give, but a counselor like yourself, Dr. Smith, is going to give, the real advice, what's going to be in the best interest of the couple without being biased in any way.
Exactly. I referenced this to the shade tree mechanic and taking your vehicle to the dealership. Now, the people at the dealership are certified, qualified, been to school, trained up, have to get a certain amount of training every year. The shade tree mechanic might not have been certified. He might not have been qualified. He might not even went to school. The shade tree mechanic might not even know anything about cars, but what they have observed and just trying to do something. And now you're nervous because you went to a shade tree mechanic. There's no warranty. There's nothing. You're just trying to you're trying to get your car to the expert, or you don't have the money for it. And so that's the reason why we use these people who are not qualified or certified. And usually the work is not up to par, and people are upset. Well, your friend is trying to help you out because they love you, they care about you, but that doesn't mean that they're an expert. And sometimes most friends are going to be biased. You know why? Because they want to maintain their friendship with you. And so they're going to be on your side, even if you're wrong. And so sometimes going to a psychologist, I like to confront my clients on certain things so they can see it and ask them about it so they can process it, interpret it, come home, reflect about it, write about it, do some aspect of creativity that might be within their wheelhouse, and then come back and let's discuss it. Let me see it. And oftentimes the epiphany happens, the light bulb will go off, and that's what you want. That's change, that's transformation. And, that's something that we all should be passionate about.
Right. Talk to me about some of the people that stick out in your mind that you've seen in your practice over the last 10 years. What kind of, condition or problem did they come to you with? How were you able to help them? And ultimately, what was the outcome for their life? I know there's probably positive outcomes where the marriages stay together, which is great, but that's not always the most positive outcome, is it?
No, that's not always a positive outcome. And I've had relationships, they start up in couples counseling, and the person already had their bags packed at the house. And they just come to counseling just to shut their spouse up. And we do the assessment. We talk about each other. We talk about the love language. We talk about their likes, their desires. We talk about communication. We talk about how do they deal with finance. We talk about intimacy issues. I even break down psychodynamically how they were raised. And we do genograms and see how their parents, so they can understand each other. And then in another 3-4 months of couples counseling, you see them out and about at the Wolf Creek amphitheater, at the concert, at the outdoor concerts, or you see them somewhere at Fox and they're holding hands, or you see them at the grocery store, working together, and it really warms your heart. And they want to give you the credit, but I have to tell them, no, you guys did the work. Enjoy, working together, and all the credit goes to the couples. And so I can take no credit in that. I just try to make sure that my tools that I use are tight. I try to keep it structured. I make sure that I don't let things pass that need to be discussed. I make sure that I confront my clients only to help them to have more thoughts or ideas. And this is what any sound counselor would do in the city, and in the city of Atlanta. Some great people, and I have I had the pleasure of supervising some great people at Georgia State University. So I think that once we kind of distinguish some of these fears and these myths, and we can get into counseling, then we can break down that divorce rate a little bit, hopefully, especially here in Atlanta, and then other cities will follow.
Well, that would be nice. Now, I'm sure every case is different, but what is the general length of time that somebody has success seeing a couples counselor?
Well, if you could see a couples counselor 12 to 14 times, maybe once a month, or maybe twice a month for 5 to 6 months, I think they will help a great deal. I have found that the 80%, 70 to 80% of my couples who stick with this plan, it actually accentuates the relationship, and it adds some clarity to making change, because that's what it's about. It's about making change. So we try to change through transformation, and that's the motto of Atlanta Consulting Psychological Services. And
right.
So we are very big on making changes and transforming, and not saying to not be yourself, but to be a better you. And as we get older, that's what we should strive for anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, if somebody is looking for a couples counselor, what are some of the questions that they should be asking? What should they know beforehand before committing?
I think if it was me and it was my family member, I would tell a person to make sure that this person is certified, make sure the person is licensed, and make sure the person is credible. And you can usually peruse one's website and things of that nature. Have a conversation. I talk to all of my clients before I schedule my clients. And sometimes my clients get a little upset with me because it might take me 24 to 48 hours to get back with them. But I talk to them, I schedule my own appointments, and to make sure it's a good fit. And also when the client come in, I let them know that if you feel like this is not a good fit, I would have no problem referring you out to someone else. So make sure that that you have someone who's a good fit for you. Oftentimes, it might be someone who's not comfortable with your culture. It might be somebody who is not comfortable with your lifestyle, or it might be somebody who's not comfortable with your religion. And so those are things, are hot button topics. So you want to make sure that those 3 things or 4 things are things that you talk to your therapist or your counselor. And for me, I'd rather go see a psychologist than see anyone else. I want to make sure this person is a doctor, licensed, credible, and maybe he has or she has master's level people working under them. But I want to make sure that there's a doctor in the house before I make an appointment.
Excellent. Well, Dr. Matt Smith, it's been great talking with you today. You are the owner of Atlanta Consulting and Psychological Services. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you for help?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, our website is www.atl, P as in Paul, S as in Sam, Y as in Yancey, C as in Carl, H as in Heaven, services.com with an S on the end. So that's ATL Psych Services with an S on the end.com. And our phone number is 404-870-3532. That's 404-870-3532. And we will be more than happy to work with you and your family. We are very passionate about what we do. And we're looking forward to hearing from people in the city of Atlanta, and hopefully we can be of great help.
Excellent. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you today, Dr. Smith. Thank you very much for being my guest on Expert Profiles Atlanta today.
No problems, Al. It was great and a phenomenal interview, and I appreciate you for inviting me, and thank you once again.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share. We'll see you next time on the show.
Thank you for listening to Expert Profiles Atlanta with Neil Howe. To learn more about the resources in the show or to listen to past episodes, visit expertprofilesatlanta.com.